Welcome back to the LCS and the State Farm Analyst Desk. Immortals Progressive is taking to the stage against FlyQuest. They're going to face off in just a couple of minutes. And as they do, Immortals are writing the next chapter in an international saga. We've got PowerOfEvil and we've got IgNar reunited from the LEC or the EU LCS, so from the glory days. It does feel right. So good. From the glory days of Misfits, a number of fans, I'm certain, weren't even around when that international storyline broke, and those guys pushed some of the world's best to the limit. From there, of course, over to the LCS, Immortals now, FlyQuest before, and these guys have kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, they had a lot of success, at least those two individuals, right? Because we talked about the fact that they went to Worlds together with Misfits, the whole, what was it, Fervor?
Fervor Leona.
So that was a fun one for IgNar, and a lot of people kind of saw him differently because he thinks about the game differently than most, a lot of people, right? A lot more aggressive-minded. That's been some of his greatest attributes on teams is the fact that he looks for fights, and so the success carried over to FlyQuest. So it's great to be able to see that they're reunited. And the funny thing is, Revenge is on that organization too. So it's not as if they don't know each other. Revenge knows these two players incredibly well, which I'm sure attributed to the team coming together in this fashion is that it's very easy to just start day one when you're already on the same foot.
I also think that the IgNar PoE combo, they don't actually really play the game that similarly, but I actually think it can help because PoE is the more reserved control mage, scaling up, but very, very reliable, whereas IgNar is very aggressive in his engages and the opportunities that he's going to take and will make risks, and sometimes it's, I wouldn't say coin flippy, but it's just very aggressive. And I think those two actually tend to balance each other out quite well, and when IgNar does find a great engage, PoE is able to follow up very quickly, and they have had success, both with Misfits and then, obviously FlyQuest making Worlds and going 3-3 there. This combination does have a lot of potential.
And the really interesting thing to piggyback off that is where Kenvi fits in here, right? Because with a mid laner like PowerOfEvil, you can benefit a lot from his stability, even if he's not necessarily going to be having a lot of forward percentage because he doesn't tend to push up in lane very far, just historically. That can benefit Kenvi a lot. And then obviously, IgNar teaming up with Kenvi to make plays around the map can also benefit him a lot. Of course, it didn't look good yesterday with that draft and the Talia and no setup. So it was a rough start, let's just say, for this trio.
Yeah, Raz, we could talk all we want about the fact that this team has some makings of greatness, but the reality is they got perfect gamed yesterday.
Yeah, especially this play right in front of you, which was really the double bubble into the counter gank, which was just lights out at that point. And Team Liquid played incredibly well around playing through jungle and shutting out an opportunity there from Kenvi. So the actual draft itself was hard to play out. What makes it even hard is if you do fail that first play, it's just what are you going to do to get back into the game? And
everyone was against the draft just without having good, reliable setup for the Talia. And so even though it's a fast farming, you can carry, it doesn't have the tools that you kind of want to help set it up. So I think a lot of people were flaming that draft, and I kind of hope they're right in the sense that I want to see more out of this team and not just be like, oh yeah, they're going to get perfect game by TL when they go up against them. I want to put more of the blame on the draft, hopefully, and see when Kenvi gets a good opportunity to get it off the ground, can he actually make plays happen? Yeah,
and kind of going back to what you said initially about the building of this team, how you're right, both PoE and IgNar play the game, differently. And there are a lot of successful iterations of League of Legends teams in the world where you have two different types of styles, but as long as they align with each other and go through with each other's plans, they can complement each other really well of not being too aggressive as a team when it comes to how you guys want to play out the game. So you always have a strong voice in one way or another. So I think it has been successful for them in the past. Yesterday is just probably the smallest sample size of a lifetime with just one game, but that sample size sucked.
Yeah, so. That was the worst sample you gave me. You got one scoop from the ice cream place, and you're like,
no, thank you, Casper. I'm gonna give me any of the other 31 flavors. So yeah, obviously rough start for Immortals. Other side of the coin, though, FlyQuest 1-0. A very solid start for them, and so they're gonna feel good coming into this matchup here against Immortals today.
Yeah, I mean, they looked a lot more proactive than Golden Guardians did for this entire match. I also still do want to highlight, like, again, they realized that they could play through bot. They locked in the Udyr pick, I think was great, making the most of that and making plays early. And then additionally, Philip looked like he was synergized with the team a lot more than I expected, which was really cool.
I think they picked up right where they left off at Spring. They were a team that had better mid to late game coordination than a lot of the teams below them in the standings, where other teams would int games away. They were coin flippy. FlyQuest was pretty stable for the most part. You have a good mid-jungle combination, toucouille and Josedeodo, like you said. Your bot lane is extremely stable with Johnsun and Aphro, and the question was, how's Philip going to look? And I think he got taken apart a little bit by LeTigress in the lane phase. I think it was up to about a 50 CS lead at one point. It was like 210 to 160 or something. But then late game, he played Camille in team fights, which is actually, I would argue, more important and the harder part than just slamming lane over and over and then being useless in mid to late game.
100%. So that's why I'm looking towards, like, last split when Kumo was on that roster, it was more so like looking towards the bot side of the map in the core 4 and how they're playing it out and how Kumo can, like, basically play alongside that, knowing that he was going to be on the weak side of the map for the most part. So that's why I want to see what Philip can do in a consistent fashion. But yes, my eyes are 100% on Josedeodo and toucouille and how they can play up against Immortals today.
Another really interesting thing is that he picked the Camille in the first place, right? Again, like, that was a quote-unquote, like, riskier pick, I guess, as your debut stage on the LCS. And I think if there's another thing that FlyQuest has been pretty interesting about, it's like, if they recognize that they need to do something very unique in draft or interesting in draft, they do rely on their players to be able to execute it. It doesn't always work out, but we've seen some interesting draft looks from them previously, even when Kumo was on the team, so it's cool to see that carrying through.
I definitely like their experimentation, and I would push that Camille into Gnar is not even experimenting. It's something that in North America has been more averse to just taking Camille in these range matchups.
Yes.
But like, you go to LCK, it's just the answer. You know, like, people just play the hell out of Camille, and that's why it's cool for Philip as a young player to be like, yeah, this should be expected of me. If you pick Gnar blind, I should play Camille into you.
Exactly.
It's definitely tough to predict when one team had such a rocky start and the other one a fairly solid one. But I'm going to ask you all to do it nonetheless. So Emily, is it FlyQuest moving to 2-0, or the team's tying up at 1-1 at the end of the day?
I picked FlyQuest.
She picked FlyQuest. Boom. I like it. Short and sweet. Raz, what are you thinking?
Earlier today, I doubled down 100 Thieves. I was wrong. Now I'm going to double down on IMT.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Explain, sir.
Absolutely. Like, the draft yesterday was really poor, but for me, IMT's success is going to be around IgNar and Kenvi, and I want to be able to see how they can play out their core 3. We didn't get an opportunity to see that yesterday. They went up against one of the best teams in this league, and with a better draft, I feel like that's going to be different going up against.
Mark, the question to you is, which of the two teams paid you off?
Neither paid me off, so I can be 100% unbiased.
Nice.
Okay, all right.
Actually, I was wearing a FlyQuest shirt in today.
You did, you did, actually.
I did.
What's this?
He was FlyQuest top C9 bot.
Okay, but I swear I would have said FlyQuest anyways. Listen, Raz is just afraid to admit that he was wrong in his power rankings when he put Immortals this high.
It's true.
I put CLG too low. I admit that. I was horribly wrong.
Oh my
It's
God.
okay.
I'm not a knee-jerker, all right?
My knee is wham!
I'm staying solid until I have a little bit more.
You flip-flopped on so much, thoe.
In the past, I'm a new Raz now,
Okay,
okay?
all
I
right,
am a
all right.
solid, firm,
Let it be known.
reliable Raz.
Today is the rebirth of Raz. Who knows what we're getting moving forward. With that, we're going to get ourselves off the desk and over to the casters. Pastrytime, Jatt, take it away.
Maybe after Champ Select.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I believe him. Reliable Raz?
Bless.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's bless a Raz that doesn't change his mind. It'll be interesting. I'm glad that he was able to stand by them, and I'm going to try and put myself in the mind.
I'm ready.
Of a team that just got perfect game and saying, yeah, they'll win the next one. They did only have one day from PoE arriving in the US to being here on stage. They did have no setup for Talia.
Yes.
And also, Team Liquid has looked very, very good.
Also true.
So it's possible. I think the 66% win chance for FlyQuest, if you're going 2 out of 3 analysts, is like fairly representative.
Okay.
So I'm willing to be open-minded that Raz could be right.
Okay. We'll have to see. Raz's pride is on the line, and so is IMT's potential first victory of this one. FlyQuest wanting to continue 2-0. Udyr apparently is just out of there. Can't have that pick
Yeah.
in the hands of Jose.
I do not mind it whatsoever. Just FlyQuest had a very systematic victory yesterday where they had a very strong pushing bot lane. They had Udyr in the jungle, and they got a very early Dragon Soul and then just won. And
Yep.
that's a very repeatable way to win. We heard even Whippo talking in his post-game interview today about how in Spring Split they were trying to do all this stuff. And he actually said, oh, by the way, in Summer, I'm going to be weak side. We're going to play through Hans and Core, and that's just going to be us. So a team that has an idea of how they should play, to me, is always more dangerous. And that's one of the reasons I like the Udyr ban.
I would have, I'd say Whippo quite bold for making the plans that plain. I think when you're that good, you can maybe get away with it. We're in this game, though. IMT. Kai'Sa, Wukong, first 2 picks. Ezreal, the first pick there for Johnsun. It is all reliable for many of the AD players here in this league. And Jose is having fun flashing the brand for the fans.
Absolutely. Want to explain the Ezreal Kai'Sa a little bit right here. We've seen this trade several times today. It's a little bit old school where Kai'Sa is seen as an answer into Ezreal. It is definitely a pick that needs to snowball, however. But basically, if left alone, Kai'Sa usually has the ability to get solo kill pressure onto Ezreal, mainly because of how well she can close with her ultimate. But you really do need to play very aggressive, up-tempo, and have setup for Kai'Sa as well. So the same way we were complaining about Immortals not having setup for Talia yesterday, hard CC will proc Kai'Sa passive stacks so she can ult into the backline. So I think Kai'Sa does pair well with Wukong, but also, I mean, back in the day would pair with like Lee Sin Soul lanes and things like that to allow backline one-shots. And that's what you need against Ezreal.
Interesting here for Fly. Aphro actually going to go for Rakan, a champion that he basically debuted many years ago now in the LCS, but also a champion IgNar is very famous for. So interesting pairing there alongside the Ezreal, but IMT are going to wait on the second half of their bottom lane. It is Ahri for PowerOfEvil as their final pick of Phase 1.
Yeah, I think PoE was actually earlier on the Ahri train than a lot of people. Even though many people see him as an Orianna one-trick. I know he was tweeting about how much he loved Ahri before it became meta and was understanding of its power. I also think the Rakan pick you just talked about for Aphromoo is twofold. Like, it's decent with Ezreal, but it's also just a denial.
Yeah.
Kai'Sa Rakan is also a fine lane, so I really like that choice by FlyQuest.
Look at them, they're just picking on IgNar. Modulus out of there, maybe they'll ban something like Leona, we'll have to see. Viego on the other side, though, as Jose is going to lose at least one more champion here. Maybe a second here if IMT want to go that way with this second ban, their 5th of this draft. And they do, Lee Sin banned.
Yeah, I do think that's heavily targeted just specifically at the player.
Yeah.
Because Wukong, in theory, is pretty good into other AD junglers. But understandable why you'd ban those 2 champions from Jose.
All right, so Fly. Is it Leona, which is decent into Rakan? Can definitely lock it down. Rakan's tricky to lock. No, Renata instead. Definitely a very powerful support. Going to be taken away here.
I'll be curious to see what IgNar chooses. He should pick right here because Immortals will want to give counter pick to Revenge. It's something they did a lot last split. It's also a very standard thing for red side teams to do this year.
Yep, see Coach talking to IgNar. IgNar's nodding his head. So I think they do agree that it is going to be an engaged support, which is very likely for IgNar, with Enchanters being strong. Definitely something that is an option for these players, but IgNar is not incapable of playing those picks, but heavily prefers the aggressive champions.
Yeah, and in terms of cohesion with their first pick, which is Kai'Sa, there's a lot of it. All 3 of those champions have the ability to combo with Kai'Sa if they're trying to assassinate the Azir or the Ezreal.
Time to Trundle here for Jose. Can be the matchup there up against Kenvi's Wukong, which leaves us in top lane. Philip gonna have to go ahead and blind something here.
Yeah, Philip, as they mentioned on the desk, had a pretty good debut, even though I think expectations are fairly muted for him. Definitely seen as a long-term play for this organization in the top lane, and when you do have to blind a pick, Aatrox is actually not the worst if you're just going to leave him alone up there.
There's no on, but yes, Philip will be isolated. That's pretty safe. He was a weak side player in Academy. that is likely carrying through here for FlyQuest in this iteration, as Gwen going to be the pick here for revenge.
Yeah, I actually think Ornn probably would have been bad. Ornn Trundle in particular, as those two, is too low damage. It really allows the other top laner to run away with things because you need to bring more than just the jungler. So Aatrox plus Trundle will still be enough to threaten whatever Revenge would have picked in the top lane. It's not as good for like actual 5v5, but in terms of playing out the map, does simplify things a little bit, so I understand the Aatrox.
I like it. This team's going to go ahead and trade champions back and forth. Don't worry, Aphromoo and Johnsun will trade. There we go. Get him over there. That's good.
So if you're Immortals, right now, you're just trying to clear your head. Yesterday didn't happen.
Nope.
I mean, some say your LCS season doesn't really start until you kill a champion or a turret or an objective.
Yeah.
So it hasn't started yet for Immortals. They can just imagine that this is game one.
Good mentality to have. We'll see if Immortals can bounce back. Obviously looking to do so here. FlyQuest, though, always poking towards the top teams in the league, and definitely pretty consistent against teams lower than them.
Yep.
So good money would say that FlyQuest feeling pretty favored here. But as you said, 2 out of 3 analysts ain't bad. There's not all of them. We'll see if they're right.
Gotta track that. I will say, thinking about how the teams played yesterday, obviously Immortals had the worst debut that they would ever want, getting perfect game by Team Liquid, but they are against what looks to be the strongest team so far, performance-wise, in the Summer Split. Meanwhile, FlyQuest actually had a very impressive opening game against Golden Guardians.
Yep.
A team that they were tied with in regular season standings last split at 9-9, and they did it in a very systematic-looking way, where they had strong bot lane prio, and Jose was able to just kind of cycle through his jungle and take objective after objective. I think they would try to replicate that again against a team like Immortals, who didn't show very much activity yesterday.
Yeah, I think we'll see quite a bit more activity from IMT this go around, as we do have a pause, I can report.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out exactly what that is about in our final game of the day. Kenvi also going to be looking to have a better game. I'm reading the chat. I'm live troubleshooting. Revenge says, "You guys runes bug too?" And then FlyQuest says, "Nope." And then Johnsun says, "You can't remake in Champs Queue, so unlucky, bro." I do think you'll be able to remake on stage.
They are, in fact, remaking the game.
Okay,
I can
enough.
report they are indeed remaking the game because the runes did bug and did not save properly. This does happen from time to time. So we'll get the players back in ASAP. I do like the panache from Johnsun, though.
Absolutely. You got to keep it light. I'm going to make sure I can get into the next game as well.
True.
Since we are remaking it.
That's true. If you stay in this game, it'll just be you. You'll be the only one. Spectating game, no one's in. Sag. All right, we'll make sure Jack gets into the next game, and we'll chill out a little bit, you know?
Yeah, so let's talk about the weekend that we've had so far.
It's been good.
Right, so preseason power rankings and reacting or overreacting after week one. I would say a lot of people put Team Liquid. Well, we have plenty of time to talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
FlyQuest. We don't need to talk about them right now.
No.
This is about as good of a start as you can have in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Perfect gaming against Immortals, and then only having 2 deaths today. So in 2 games, they have had 2 deaths, and I really like their simplified playstyle. But the other team that's interesting to me, there's a couple. There's CLG and there's EG. Right? EG, we were talking about a lot about like the MSI hangover that they might have had.
Don't look that hungover.
Yeah, and they've beaten good teams.
Yep. You have to. This is the thing. When you win, immediately people want to watch you play. So usually the front half of your schedule, you play good teams to start it off. So let's play C9 with subs, to be fair. Don't have their intended starting bottom lane, but still a very good team. C9 are good, and they did look good for most of that game until EG found a way back in. And 100 Thieves, the team they beat in the finals already. One of the recent mainstays of LCS finals.
So just for those of you that are tuning in right now, we do have this game delay, so we're just talking about what we've seen so far in the 9 games of LCS.
Yep. So just a little JLXP preview.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I have practice podcasting. So MSI actually, and I I had this conversation with Vulcan before he went. Like he said, "Oh yeah, MSI is cursed." Because he had the experience. You know, he's actually a back-to-back MSI participant.
Yep.
Would be 3 times in a row if MSI happened in 2020 because he won 2020 spring with Cloud9. But he experienced going to MSI with Cloud9, and it like kind of destroyed their team a little bit. They started Summer Split with a different AD carry. Like MSI boomed them not only mentally but then also physically, because this is actually not the MSI that we even had in 2015. Sorry if this is like a bit of a history lesson, but in 2015, MSI was a single round robin group stage into a bracket stage. So that tournament literally took a week, right? Then there was another phase of MSI where most teams auto-qualified to the group stage. Then there was a play-in stage that most regions didn't participate in, which qualified a few extra regions. So that became like a 2-week investment if you make it into the top 4. But in the last 2 years, it's literally every team gets thrown into what is now called the group stage, but is a modified play-in. Then they do the Rumble stage, which is another week. And then because you're top 4, you're playing a 3rd week. Then you think you're going early because you want to do well. And some, like, I'm not going to name who, but there is a player on EG who got COVID, got stuck in Korea, had to quarantine, came back late. Like, it really, really drains you because this is a 5 or 6 week like burst after you have also done a 4-week playoff stint. So like it is very physically and mentally taxing, which is why I'm very surprised actually that EG has been able to win both games.
I agree. They've actually looked really good. Like I was worried that they would be a little rusty, a little tired. Like Danny tweeted about it. We had that, I believe, play on the show yesterday. I thought that like they didn't have a lot of practice time, most likely, right? Because they got back so late. Wanted to probably take a well-deserved break.
They had 3 days of practice.
There you go.
And they weren't even full scrim days because they were doing media, they were doing sponsor obligations.
Yep.
So
we had them on for a little whole open that we had to start the season.
10 scrims maybe?
Yeah.
Like it's not that much.
And, you know, pretty up to date on the meta, it felt like. You know, have kind of the reads with playing on a patch at what, 3-4 patches ago at this point that they played on for 6 weeks or so leading into MSI. So yeah, very impressive from EG, and curious to kind of take the temperature of a lot of the top teams. I feel like obviously C9 have you know a different team right now. 100 Thieves feel like they're still trying to stitch things together, despite an excellent late season run in spring, even though they did lose to EG eventually. And then TL's being TL, that's good. That's great news for TL fans, but it is not clear.
Yeah, if like you're saying take the temperature, and I'm like, so a normal temperature is good, and a high temperature is bad.
I guess so.
So yeah, all the like 97.5 to 98.5 teams is like that's TL, that's EG, that's CLG, right? I want to call them hot, but that's bad with temperature.
Yes.
That would be a fever. The team that I'm actually thinking is a little bit, I would measure them at 100 right now.
Ooh.
Would be 100 Thieves.
Ooh.
Because like they beat TSM barely.
Yes.
They were down significantly early game. TSM kind of ran around the map, got caught a lot. There's a little bit of 100 Thieves forcing them into those mistakes, but a lot of TSM just kind of running it. And they win that game, and then they look pretty bad to me against EG, who like, there's no way EG is playing at their level.
No.
Like EG is at like a 60% of what they could be, I think. And then 100 Thieves still loses to them despite not having the same travel burden as MSI. That's the most concerning team to me when I saw most people putting them like 2 or 3 in their power rankings.
Pretty high.
They did not look good to me. And we've done it.
We've done it.
We've made it into the game.
We have arrived to our final game of the day. Thank you, Mr. Leesman. It was a pleasure. See you on the next episode. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. But for now, IMT versus FlyQuest is on the Rift for our final game of day 2.
I'm going to request broadcast sends me the camera feed, and I can just post that on the JLXP channel.
Hey,
and that's my recap. That's my day 2 recap.
We did it.
With Pastrytime.
We found a way to make content. You're welcome. I'll come on your show anytime.
You just were. Okay, recap quickly on this game. FlyQuest sitting at 1-0. Very convincing win yesterday. Got a Dragon Soul at about 22.5 minutes against Golden Guardians. Looked like Golden Guardians didn't do anything, but it was a lot of FlyQuest just being in position. First setup for the first 3 dragons. Then on the 4th dragon, they got a pick before the dragon, just got the soul, and then kind of ended up winning the game. So a little bit of an anticlimactic end there. And Immortals, of course, don't want to dwell too much, but yet to pick up a kill or a turret or an objective this year.
Yep, you think things should be quite different for both teams here. FlyQuest expecting Probably kind of a grumpy Immortals. A bit more of a test here.
I said this
IMT.
year, I meant this split.
Yes.
They definitely won a lot of games last split.
They certainly did. It's PowerOfEvil squaring up against toucouille. Haven't seen toucouille's Azir, I believe, although it is picking up some speed in the meta recently, and this is a champion he's very well versed on. toucouille actually was a pleasant surprise for me in spring. Was a really great mid laner to watch. I think he's very versatile, very skilled, and I think is underrated as a laner, even though he gets a lot of credit for his synergy with his jungler and his team fighting, which is also well deserved.
Yeah, former MVP of the LFL.
Aphro in trouble briefly. IgNar though, just a little love tap on in with the Zenith Blade. Gonna bounce on out there. Don't think there's too much expected interaction in the 2v2, although I guess if there is gonna be, it's gonna be the man with the Ignite and the Leona lining up as Kenvi skipping the old Krugs down to the blue side nice and quick here.
Yeah, interesting, very, very, very defensive summer choices by FlyQuest. Cleanse, Exhaust, and also First Strike on the Ezreal, so maximizing some late game gold. It will change to me a little bit of the complexion of how they play. I don't see how they're going to get bot prio with that to be able to move to Dragon. Maybe toucouille can get prio with Azir here against PowerOfEvil's Ahri, and they can use that to move into River. And this is assuming they're still trying to stack Dragons early, but I imagine they will.
I have to think so. toucouille feeling good though, getting the wave pushed up. It is Philip struggling a touch here. Revenge going to take a very early base here and just accept that the wave's in a good spot. Wants to go back and let Philip kind of push it back out and kind of reset things, but I don't think he's got much. Does have a Doran's shield actually. The Revenge does pick up a second item for his lane. Kenvi gonna go ahead, clears his blue side jungle fully, but Jose down to this side. Pops the shield off. Smite is good from Jose. He's taking that crab away.
So just a fraction of a second late for that Scuttle Crab. Not as bad as what happened yesterday, where he was a fraction of a second late and then Santorin killed his bot lane. Losing the crab is a little bit acceptable. Interesting, I think interesting jungle matchup from a story perspective, actually. Josedeodo had a pretty poor debut, I'd say, like, split/year in 2021, but was much improved in spring split of this 2022. But a very, very hype player. I know when I was on Team Liquid, like, we would see this guy in NA solo queue, and then actually Core started watching some of his games where he made this like gauntlet run to qualify for 2020 Worlds, and everyone was like, hey, this Josedeodo is really good. We called him Josedeodo because our general manager was Dodo 8.
Yep.
And it's just, so I will still mispronounce his name occasionally because of that. I apologize to everyone if it happens, but he didn't translate very well to the needs of different teammates when he joined FlyQuest. And I think that's going to be very interesting for me with Kenvi, because he spent, you know, a year and a half to 2 years just like being the man wherever he was, because like behind the scenes, everyone talked about how good Kenvi was and when he would make it into the LCS. And I think, and this is actually speculation, but I think he was trying to like really land on a top team for a long time, or 100 Thieves was trying to place him on a top team. Plus there's all this like buyout stuff that happens with academy players. But
Ignite.
Now that he's here, he needs to make an impact.
2v2, very nice patience there for Josedeodo, and Philip actually gets the chain on Revenge, so there was potential, but they'll back away instead, and that's exactly what Jose wanted. He was covering there, wasn't interested in diving that Gwen, and is there for the timing on Kenvi.
Yeah, there we go. Philip wanted to recall, and Kenvi would have had the gank there, but ends up kind of playing catch-up, so he's been double crabbed, and he is playing in somewhat of a responsive way. I want to see a way for him to be able to get unlocked, but the LCS is actually a different stage. Even if you see, like, oh, FlyQuest, they're just a 5th or 6th place team, that can be a very different level when you're playing against it, especially with the stage 2.
Right, and to your point, as we'll watch this one again, Kenvi knew what the situation was, but, oh, I like this. Dips on over. Oh, that's so cool.
That's very cool. But yeah, if Jose wasn't there, this was a kill. But that's just like game sense by Jose to be there to allow the push out.
Yeah, and kind of to what you were saying. Like,
I am gonna steal that one.
Yeah, that's really nice actually. Little Wukong invisibility lasts just long enough to get through the speed shrine vision zone that the Rift Scuttler provides. Especially after the double crab, you know, Philip would have been feeling pretty safe. So Jose actually with a really tight read in top lane.
Ooh. So, just gonna explain it in case people are missing it. He used his W right over the vision area of the blast cone so that no one was able to see him. He's gonna lose another crab though.
Oh no. This might already happen. Jose doesn't have his, but the crab's walking the wrong way. Jose just slaps it down. Kenvi loses his third crab in a row, and it is tough adjusting. Not just that he was the player for a lot of people in Academy.
Yeah.
He was with teammates that he knew pretty well for a long time in there as well, and he's also changed organizations. Was under the 100 Thieves banner and their infrastructure for so long. So it is a lot of change for Kenvi and for IMT as they put together this team here for the Summer Split. So definitely a player that is exciting and should be interesting to people, especially off the back of Danny and Jojo kind of reminding people about the NA ecosystem. But I've talked to the Academy guys. Kenvi is good, but he is not like, we should be hyping him right now. This is a player that's going to need time to marinate.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's just, he's playing with PowerOfEvil for like the second day.
Yep.
He needs a little bit more time to get synergy with the majority of his team. Speaking of the Academy stuff, and I will interrupt myself if some action happens, but the Philip promotion, and this is my theory, I haven't confirmed this.
I love Jatt theories.
Does not happen if EG doesn't win finals. So we talked a lot about how the EG kind of taking a bet on Jojo and Danny to promote them so soon when possibly like on paper better players existed, and even like if you look at what EG did, they were 9-9.
Oh, okay. We're good.
Almost lost it. Yeah, they were 9-9 in Spring Split before winning. Like Jojo and Danny didn't necessarily work right away, but in time it did, and they won the title, and they went on to have a 5-5 MSI group stage. But like right now, I don't think Philip is necessarily better than Kumo. But I think someone within the FlyQuest organization said Kumo has, while he is good and you can still make improvements as an older player, like Philip is very, very young, and we want to give him his reps, and then we'll judge. Like then they'll judge after 2022 who is better, because Philip didn't have amazing laning stats in Academy. You listen to the Academy casters, they're saying like, oh yeah, we didn't even think he was the best top laner in Academy, but he is getting this shot, I think, because he was within the FlyQuest organization, and there's a general hunger to allow these chances as the Rift Herald fight is looking like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, seeing some of that, of course. Kenvi and Philip, in some ways, doing battle, even though they're not in the same lane. But IMT first to this Herald. Philip, they're trying to make the fight happen. Going over the top, it's IMT looking to try and capitalize. Lots goes in. Wukong's going to find the first blood, and it is absolute carnage here in the top side of the river. But Johnsun was not there. So IMT take the Herald and the first blood.
And Kenvi's on the board. First blood
IMT's
for
on the
Wukong.
board.
And they get the Herald to boot, so they have a chance of opening up a big lead, and that's so great when you have this hard engaged team. Like, they have to go in, so finding ways to fight around objectives, especially since turrets have been buffed so much, and it's more dangerous to turret dive early in the game. Just a massive fight find by Immortals, and a big reward.
Little plate there for Lost as well. Scoops it up in the top lane with that wave being there. So that's going to be almost 1,000 gold ahead for IMT with more to come. Perhaps we watch this again.
And honestly, they just have more people here. You can see Ezreal on the minimap is actually just not there. He has to stop to fire his ultimate. So, of course they're going to win this fight. I think it's an uncontestable Rift Herald by FlyQuest, and very close to losing 2 and even more.
Yeah, Jose lucky to get away. So just the one casualty. They'll take it as Kenvi grabs a bit of extra gold for himself. Johnsun currently chilling here in the top side. I've actually swapped completely for right now at least, which is a little curious with the dragon being up, but maybe it's just temporary with how the assignment shook out after that reset. Philip continues to play pretty nicely here against Revenge. He's down in CS though, which again has been a commonality for him in Academy and in the LCS, so definitely looking more at what he does after this. Even though his trades have been decent up against Revenge. Jose also parked behind this pocket of vision, but Revenge sniffs it out. Gonna dash away. Ooh, Pillar's nice.
It does call question into this dragon, though. Kenvi had to pull off, and they catch him.
Going for it again. Revenge in trouble. That's Philip flashing on in for the kill.
Philip on the board as well. So the 2 recently promoted Academy players get the first 2 kills of this game in the LCS here. Also, just a little bit of indecision, right? Revenge could have been playing more back while Kenvi was on the dragon, but then Kenvi actually pulled off the dragon, so he spent, at this point, almost a minute in that spot of the map. But watching this one more time, you see Wukong actually killing the Infernal Drake, and Revenge hoping to crash, rather than just kind of sitting back and playing a little bit safe. Philip right here after the pillar slows him down, lands the Aatrox W. Revenge tries to move sideways, but if he moves left, he doesn't get out. If he moves right, the pillar slows him. So actually no way out of the Aatrox pull, and they get the kill.
Yeah, Trundle's one of those champions that he ganks you, and sometimes it feels like it does nothing. And then when the pillar's just right, you feel like you've literally been stunned by an ability from a different game.
Yeah.
It's actually unreal.
My favorite one is the pillar that knocks them away from the team, and then your top laner flaming you. Because I didn't realize I had Smartcast on. That's my move, but I need to work on that.
Well, still getting harassed by Johnsun under the tower, but been getting the tower worked down a little. Lost trying to collect some of that plate gold. That gold, though, has been cut down a little after the counter kill. In bottom side, not much at all for IMT as the advantage. Aphro maybe finding an angle here onto Lost. Lost has flash and heal, so I can't imagine a scenario where he dies in the 2v2. But PoE maybe roaming up there as well, getting some vision now as Kenvi starting that red. Gonna go ahead and take his buffs away as Aphro dips on in for a bit of vision. Jose's behind them.
Yep. Ezreal just trying to work up to a few item power spikes. First to Mythic was actually Lost's Kai'Sa, so right now if they do get left like isolated 1v1, the Kai'Sa would have a big advantage, but FlyQuest doesn't let that happen. They're just mobbing around Johnsun to allow him to get golden plates.
And again, Revenge continuing to push up aggressively. Feels confident in the 1v1. No Jose this time. Nice cancel. Did have vision, but Revenge going to be delayed just a touch, and the Herald is going to be popped. Not a bad setup for it. We'll see if Lost can kind of manicure the wave in. Blue buff's going to go back over to toucouille.
Yeah, nice transfer. Immortals would love to hit this for about a plate before the Rift Herald crashes. Then they'd be able to take the whole thing down.
Have the numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, Jose.
Jose, that's a bold place to be. There is Ezreal and Rakan on the way.
That's a slow only, but it might be good enough. The stopwatch though is there. And now IgNar taking the tower. It's very spooky. The plate damage is done, but Fly do defend their jungler.
Okay, let's see what they actually get for this, because he buys time by using a stopwatch, and they have a 3v4, and Azir would need to be able to push up. But unfortunately, there's just no vision in this area, so he can't safely push the turret. And it's like a nice play by Jose, but actually doesn't get much done. The plate still crashed, the mid laner doesn't get any plates, and we're back to neutral.
Yep, and Revenge, gonna go ahead, scoop this wave up. Philip was pushing in, he'll take his reset. Lots of back and forth here. It looks like teams might be playing between the objectives. IMT did get the first one, which is that Infernal Dragon. They'd also get the Herald that eventually crashed in top lane and gave a bit of gold over to Lost, who is the big recipient. As you can see there in the FTX total gold. Lost definitely a player that I'm been kind of bouncing around teams.
Yeah.
In recent splits, but a player that I've always had a lot of personal interest in. He's from my region, of course. He was the original Oceanic import here to NA. Long time ago now at this point.
On Echo Fox.
Correct. Echo Fox Academy. And I think a player that...
He had like a really good quote in the first... Do you remember that?
The Power Friendship one? Or something
No.
else?
It's like Ride Hard or Die.
Oh, yeah.
That
That's a Lost classic. And I think a player that has maybe struggled to find the ceiling that at least the local fans have definitely seen him do in Oceania. Hasn't always been willing to pull the trigger, go in and test his limits more as an AD, which is something that is tough because you need to dish out damage as an AD, and sometimes you look silly and sometimes you look amazing. But I think Lost is a player that will hopefully benefit from being on a different team. And even though I think IMT will take some time to warm up, yes, there are pieces of this team that have played together before. Lost and Kenvi are not among those players that have experience. But Lost is continuing to get gold at least in this game. Gets the first tower gold as well. Now it's kind of a real lead for IMT. Yeah. It's a little late here in the mid-game, 15.5 through, but 1,000 gold up is not bad at all.
Yeah, I also think Kai'Sa is one of his best champions. I know when, like, one almost tragic team is like the 2021 TSM.
Yep.
Because that's when Spring and Summer Split combined records. And across all 45 regular season games, 18 Spring, 27 Summer, they had the best record of every team in the LCS, but no one ever thinks of that team as being any good. They're just like, oh yeah, that failed Sword Art contract, and then they got rid of Lost. But like, they were actually, in the regular season, like the best team in the LCS. And I thought that Lost's Kai'Sa back then was really good. Like, he's just good at getting farm, found good times to get his windows. Outside of his Kai'Sa is actually where he struggled a lot. So this is a comfortable place for him and a good composition to hopefully pick up Immortals' first win.
And IMT have just kind of been like parading around the rift, taking all the objectives. They got the second Herald. They're going to go ahead and grab the second Dragon. And Fly basically trying to pick up scraps. Like, Johnsun is splitting top. They are not contesting right now. They just want to try and trade and get some gold back.
Yeah. It's this is more of the type of game that you and I expected we'd be getting.
Yep.
Right? Not the crazy COD TSM, like 1 or 2 kills per minute type game. But ultimately, it'll probably be a game that gets decided around objectives. They're just trading pressure, and Johnsun really hoping to get this turret. Oh, dear.
IgNar with a face check, but it looking good for IMT. Wukong's going to fly on in, and the damage is not quite there onto Jose, but Philip now frontlining, gets the double knockup, finds Kenvi, toucouille picks him up, and Philip is just frontlining for the squad, gets himself picked up by Revenge in response, but I like it.
I love the play of just waiting in that bush and kind of just baiting them with Johnsun. But at the end, Philip gets a little bit too hyphy and gives his kill over. So at the end of it, it is the turret, but it is just the 1-for-1. And again, we're at neutral.
PoE TPing down here to the bottom side of the map as we watch this one again.
Yeah, I mean, they just place the control ward, make sure nothing's there. They've been using the sweeper. This is FlyQuest. So IgNar does press his W pretty quick and get his aftershock. So the turn is fairly immediate. TP comes in from the Aatrox, and like right here, great, but your jungler has no health, your Ezreal has no mana, and you've gotten the 1 kill, back out. The flash forward was the mistake. The team cannot follow over that space, and they're able to return the kill.
Yep. Good start. Little iffy on the dismount there with the finish, but again, the aggression you like to see from these young players. They often say it's a lot easier to get them to dial it back than to be too scared and not willing to make those plays. That's not always true. It's generally true.
Yeah.
But as you said, this does kind of just reset the game. And I think if that's the case, here almost 20 minutes through, game's fairly even keel as far as gold goes. IMT are happy. They have 2 dragons.
Yeah,
They're chilling.
I really think that's the biggest thing. FlyQuest with the early Dragon Soul yesterday. No dragons today, but they do have an Azir who's getting more and more money and more farm. So toucouille's going to look to be a big force here. I think Trundle as a jungler also has tremendous scaling. He'll be able to ult IgNar early on in fights, make him kind of paperish by stealing all his resistances. And that's a good journey. It looked a little ambitious, but it was good.
IgNar's like, wait a second, what's happening here?
Trundle's coming.
Trundle, though, is backed away by the looks of things. Philip still feeling the 1v1, but Gwen with the Riftmaker finished. CS lead's been cut down a little bit there, although Philip is a bit behind, but Revenge is confident in the 1v1. Gwen is real tough to unseat in duels.
That looked painful. Philip lost half his health just now, just trying to slow the crash of his wave. So Revenge is going to have a very significant turn here, place wards and keep that wave pushed. So Immortals going to buy a little bit more pressure. That's going to be eventually important as we move towards the 3rd dragon.
Also, a reminder, Kenvi does have the Rift Tower, by the way. It's actually running pretty low on time to pop, so maybe mid, as Wukong is currently there, but gonna have to get something done with it, as Revenge is doing a nice job here hitting down this tower. Gwen pretty efficient at getting down structures, and Revenge should be able to finish this off. Will do so, and Philip's gonna join on in. But nothing Philip can do as Kenvi does indeed pop the Herald back towards the mid lane there, and IMT will try and move it on in.
Yeah, and Revenge going to kill that turret again and then probably move to try and support this Rift Herald. I mean, Azir is top, so they can get this crash and get the mid turret very low.
Ooh, love that look there. They have found the angle. It's IgNar that finds it, and Lost that gets the kill. It's Aphromoo though back trading onto Kenvi. So 1-for-1 once again is IgNar getting low, but I don't think he's going to go down, and it's just continual trades.
That was a very fast trigger pull by IgNar. That's something he's very good at.
It's funny because my big thing with IgNar is that he's the hide-and-seek champion of the LCS. He always finds a flank. He's always out of vision. That was, you know, a lot less subtle, let's say.
Yeah.
As FlyQuest with a nice push through, I can actually get this tower. That's big.
That is. But they do have to reset now with about 30 seconds left. And toucouille doesn't have TP, even though he's got 1,800 gold that he'd love to shop with. So this 3rd dragon is going to be relatively difficult, because just look at the difference of where they are on the map right here. Like, there's already Leona and River, but as they set up that dragon, we're going to watch this clip one more time. It's just the Rift Herald crashing, and Jose is trying to delay it a little bit, and they just go in.
Yeah, Kenvi actually, I believe, started that up.
Yeah.
Really nicely done there for IMT. Of course, can be caught in the front line, does get CC'd and killed as a result. And now we're back to this dragon. FlyQuest actually are going to make it in time.
Yeah, and there's not even, the wave hasn't even crashed. I'm actually very surprised, but let's see if FlyQuest can move in here. They're going to go for Jose.
Ulti just short. Jose does get slowed, gives him the thumbs up though, and now FlyQuest pushing that wave on through. We're going to move on up. PowerOfEvil looking for the charm, misses on the Philip, who dashes away, and IMT are a little split here.
Yeah, FlyQuest made it in. They cleared both control wards, so they're in river, but can't start the dragon yet.
PoE
They
barely.
have a con ult, and okay, they have all ults. toucouille might look for a big engage if they see it.
Yeah, it's all the flashes, all the ults by the looks of things. So it is going to be a pretty even team fight, but it is going to be a force here. Dragon low, Revenge getting chunked a little bit now as FlyQuest still trying to find the way in. Aphromoo once again finds two with the knockup. It's Johnsun that finds the kill. Revenge is going to fall as well. The Dragon does get picked up though by Revenge. Even though Johnsun gets the double, IMT, I think, get what they came for.
Ooh, I mean, the dragon is nice. It's possibly important later, but the game is very much in the hands of FlyQuest right now. They're going to be able to pick up a Baron off the back of that fight. 22 minutes in, this is going to grow their lead to close to 5,000.
Yep. Going to be big old FTX gold advantage after this one here. We'll check in on the exact amount in a moment. Jatt said 5K. I believe him. He's very smart. As IgNar is trying to at least get a look in, but it's going to be far too late, and it's just a level 8 Leona. There is no chance of a steal. Looking very good for FlyQuest now off the back of that, even though they didn't get the dragon.
And I've been circling. Oh, no, I'll get back to it. I'll get back to that frozen heart on Ezreal. Watch this fight one more time. Really dicey. Immortals, like, I don't like starting the dragon when you don't have a clean engage option. Like, look where IgNar is. He has no ultimate and no way of starting the fight. So, like, yes, Immortals is daring FlyQuest to come to them, but then what? They don't have the people or the cooldowns in order to win the fight. Lost does his best, but really can't do anything. And then when 3 kills go over to Ezreal, it allows him to finish this Frozen Heart, which, if we think about like the classic style of the Kai'Sa Wukong or Kai'Sa Leona engage, it's like the Kai'Sa flies in with someone else and they try and one-shot this Ezreal. And basically, when you get to 3 items, that becomes impossible. So at this point, Ezreal has won the matchup. And the only way this turns back is Lost has to finish his Infinity Edge and then usually another item. He usually needs to get to 4 items before he's effective. So the Soul would help that if they're able to somehow steal it in 4 minutes, but a massive power spike for FlyQuest after that fight.
Yeah, that gold lead is now up to 5K. It was 4, now 5. Tower goes down, more likely to follow. Minute 40 left onto that Baron. Gonna be tough stuff here. PoE just hanging around, trying to make something happen. IMT fainting there in mid, maybe hoping to pick off someone in a silly spot, but Ezreal's very safe. Aphro also very mobile. So not a lot for IMT to do. They have to stick together and try and find a pick, but picks are likely not forthcoming here.
Yeah, and just like a cute thing that's happening this game is like Philip is just off on his own all the time.
Yeah, he's vibing.
Like, they've really made this game into a 4v4.
Yes.
Which, especially for Immortals, even though they didn't win too many games last split, like when they won, Revenge needed to pop off, and he hasn't been able to do that. So, job done, so to speak, for Philip with what FlyQuest want to accomplish so far.
Yeah, fly. Old Philip there with a very slight CS lead, so has brought it back consistently, just being in the side lane, basically containing Revenge, right?
Yep.
And when he has been in team fights, he's looked relatively good. That aggressive flash over the tree line aside, that was maybe the one error we can point to. Is Jose perhaps has also made an error in judgment, sticking around to touch too long, is lost. Gets a much needed gold.
Yeah, that's actually a real big kill for Immortals. The coordinated reset was not so coordinated, and Jose gets caught out. That's a pretty big death that was unnecessary.
Johnsun still firing the ulti up through mid. This outer is just barely alive for FlyQuest, and Johnsun is going to keep it that way. Minute 40 until the Dragon Soul is available for Immortals only. Fly yet to get a Drake this game. Baron's wearing off. So we are going to reset back to these big objectives in just a moment. And IMT, unfortunately, the wait for Soul plan was looking all right.
Yeah.
And now they're 6,000 gold behind, and it looks a lot worse.
Yeah, and I don't think Immortals can contest this next one.
I agree.
When I just look at the items, right? Like Ezreal versus Kai'Sa, even Azir versus Ahri.
Yep.
Those are the 2 biggest ones. The rest of the team is pretty close, but just like 2 items and 500 gold short of IE versus 3.5 items, 3 completed items and a ton of magic resist for the Azir versus none on the Ahri. But if they are somehow able to get like really good push down bot lane and then Gwen can flank like behind them, maybe they'd have a chance as they fight in this like river area. But I think the smart play is to just wait until they have IE on the Kai'Sa and Deathcap, and they just give this dragon.
Yeah, and toucouille is not giving any mid prio to IMT. He is just smashing minions. This year is very efficient at this point at taking down those waves. The rest of Fly grouping together, making sure to get traction on this area and clear it all the vision. Revenge might just be in trouble, does have to dip away. But pretty good setup here for Fly. Johnsun, hello. I think it was just to put down a control ward, actually, although I don't think he has space for one, so perhaps I'm wrong. They do have one deep, though. It's Philip in trouble in the 1v1. Revenge just opening up the game. Lost here as well. TP coming on in, and Revenge basically gets a 1v1 kill. But now Kenvi potentially caught out here. Johnsun cleanses it off. Kenvi's clone is low, but he's not dead. Not a lot of health to play with, though. And now IgNar, yep, gonna be dead here, it looks like. toucouille does have the last little soldiers to get that trade.
Immortals really trying to make a play. They just burned Ahri ult as well,
face check.
though.
Not what you want to see. Lost a little too far forward. Goes invis, but it's just not enough. toucouille shuts that off immediately, and now IMT cannot get this dragon.
Huh. That was not the Kai'Sa play I expected.
No.
Yeah.
Touch too aggressive.
Yeah. A little bit.
Gotta find the sweet spot.
The conversation we were having about waiting was not the conversation Immortals was having.
No.
But I do like this part of the play for sure. Just finding like a sneak attack on a Philip. Philip just needs to meet the wave, was trying to push up the wave, but the team wasn't necessarily there with him. And the continuation from the fight from Kenvi isn't that bad either, but so Revenge can't get in, and they're a little bit too grouped. So like at this point, if IgNar could have just found a way to stay with the team, and Immortals could have had 5 people to move through bot river, maybe they have a chance. I think once IgNar goes down, Immortals probably has to call it quits, but nice window to try and take advantage of.
Yeah,
nonetheless.
you saw kind of the problem though, is that yes, Revenge is in the lane, he can maybe get something done in the duel. He is relatively strong, 2 items now, stopwatch as well there for the Gwen, but they had no control of their own jungle, and that's where IMT have to come through, which is why it ended up being a wash. So Fly will take the dragon off the rift. They'll continue to hold their gold lead, and they'll look to posture around this Baron.
They absolutely will. I think it's a very interesting game right now, actually. It's like not very easy for FlyQuest to force things, and with, like Vulcan actually mentioned this in the interview when Gabby asked him about, like, oh, you didn't necessarily have that much engaged. He said, well, yeah, but it's just an Ezreal comp, so we just kind of hit them and ask them what they're going to do.
Yep.
That works a lot better when you have Drakes. So yes, they have the 7,000 gold lead, but they still don't have inhibitor turrets opened up. They only have 1 Drake, and they have to avoid things like this where they potentially get picked out.
That's a very good stopwatch there for Aphro. They're not going to have it for the next encounter. And Fly going to start the Baron immediately, forcing IMT into the area.
That's the play. It's like you need to come to us, and then we'll have too much damage for you to fight.
Banshees, oh, that was so sick! He tried to get it off, he timed it nicely, but toucouille now going to shove them back. Afro's still alive, and now toucouille's on a rampage. Philip is just in there. No fear from the youngster as Revenge TPing in, but the flank perhaps he'll advise, although Revenge is actually making it look pretty good. PoE finds the chomp, over the wall he goes. Afro looks for the engaged angle but can't get it, but IMT are going to get the kill. And this team fight's looking nice as Johnsun is going to be shut down. 1,000 gold to Revenge, and IMT have found life in this game.
There's still plenty of game to play. Johnsun, Afro, Jose down. Kenvi down as well, so no smite, but it is not going to matter as no one on FlyQuest can stop this Baron. Objective bounties weren't even up, actually, because the 3 dragons, I think, made the game close enough, and Immortals is right back in it.
TP in for toucouille as well. What a turnaround, though, for IMT.
I mean, really clever play there by IgNar, but the flash comes in. But, of course, once flash is down, toucouille doesn't have too many tools left, does stay alive for a very long time, so this fight really turns when Revenge flies in and gets a massive amount of damage onto Philip, but also notice how that all passed through Aphromoo on the way. PoE playing around the outskirts, and Lost actually not having his ultimate at this stage in the fight. Has to kind of walk it down, but like, Johnsun just ends up being unable to be effective in this fight, possibly because of the space of where they started it. 1,000 gold to Revenge is going to maybe even make that split push. So Immortals was down 7,000 gold, but they're right back in it. There's Revenge. That's what did it. 6k damage from Gwen.
6k damage in the team fight and 1,000 extra gold. He's got 3 items now onto Gwen. Definitely a revenge angle for sure right now for IMT. And hey, look at that, with the Baron buff, gonna chug down the tower in the top lane. The other thing, like, yeah, really, again, hide and seek IgNar. You gotta be careful when you're checking in the fog of war. But Jose just lost the 1v1 to the Baron because it's Baron. Like, what are you supposed to do?
That'll do it. That will do it. The unfortunate failed turn. And here we go again. Like, this is the bot time. Like, the only thing that they would want more of would be possibly a death cap on Gwen, but they got death cap on Ahri. They got 3.5 items on Kai'Sa. They even have, don't look at that. He's behind. But 3 people have a lot of gold for Immortals, and they might be able to pull off a fight and a win here.
Okay, he's got some heal cut, all right?
Yeah.
Got to tear down the Ezreal and the Aatrox and the Trundle. Although I did remember you mentioning a while ago that Infinity Edge was going to be a point that we should look for on Kai'Sa, and look at that.
Lord Dominic's regards, I think, will actually makes him stronger than Ezra, so he's about equal right now. And Afro ulting is not good for FlyQuest.
Not going to have that cooldown. See if they can buy time, but the Dragon is up right now. The soul is upon FlyQuest as Immortals are looking to once again take the very powerful Hextech Dragon Soul off of the map. PoE is zoned away slightly, but does have the ulti. Ahri's mobility is pretty good as Revenge is just marking the enemy top laner, and in he goes to the Dragon Pits.
Oh, they're just going to flip it.
All right.
And when FlyQuest comes in, PoE is going to try and flank, so it makes it hard for toucouille to follow.
Kenvi again fainting on in. Pops the clone. Dragon's low enough. Phillips in the pit doesn't really want to be there. Hextech Dragon's very cranky.
So this is actually kind of picture the same as when FlyQuest got the kills in the Baron beforehand. So I can see why Immortals hesitant, but we're going to see a fight here.
But Revenge, he's actually found time for the flank. Here he goes. PoE starts it off. Kenvi gets in there. Jose's gone down. IMT. I think they've done it. They found the angle. They're going to get almost everybody here as Phillip is going to dash away, but the Dragon is there. As IgNar's going to get it.
That's the soul.
And Kenvi's still going. Yeah, Phillip's just donezo. I mean, he might win the 1v1, but I think Kenvi's got it. Nope, never mind. Kenvi's thought better of his time. This is not the Academy battle we predicted, but Phillip is going to try and find the solo, but I don't think it matters. And Kenvi does eventually find the shutdown as IMT, they are going through mid. They are going to take this game, just stealing it away from FlyQuest.
Kenvi wins the battle and the war at the end of this one, pulling out from a 7,000 gold deficit after being perfect game by Team Liquid yesterday. They did it. They forgot about the game yesterday. They're 1-1 and cruising on into the summer split.
Nobody is safe except Team Liquid. That's what it feels like right now.
Just wait until
2 days.
tomorrow. Just wait until tomorrow.
True.
Maybe there'll be no safety then.
Just a very interesting game. The back and forth, we had the big objectives coming on through. FlyQuest just found that fight, even though the Dragon went over. IMT was so far behind after that Baron, and then they just kept committing.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of learnings for FlyQuest in this one, but like thinking about the overall back and forth of the game, Immortals was actually in control for a lot of it. For the first 2 dragons for sure.
Yep.
They pick up a third one, make that big mistake, and that's what gave FlyQuest the upper hand temporarily, but it was a hard hand to play with for FlyQuest because they didn't have the Dragon Soul to pull Immortals in. So instead they try and use the Baron to pull them in, but they mis-execute because it's a more dangerous objective to bait around. Jose gets slaughtered by the Baron itself. They follow through and end up losing a bunch of kills, and that's kind of how the comeback starts. So really a very back and forth game, even though it was 7,000 gold lead at one time, and happy for Immortals to be able to pick up their first win.
Agree. Also really nice to see a new team actually showing a decent amount of synergy, right? Like, the question is like, yes, Kenvi and IgNar are good, but can they play together?
Yeah.
Much better looking this game. Like, Kenvi started one fight, IgNar started a bunch as well. It just felt like the team was more on the same page, which when your mid laner flies in from getting his green card from back home 2 days ago, good to see from Immortals early on.
Yeah, and they, like, to me, with Kenvi and IgNar, that isn't necessarily a communication thing because they were engaging in, like, I call them trigger pull moments because it's like you need to see it and you need to go. That's not one of those things where you're saying, okay, I'm going to engage in 5 seconds when we see this cooldown. It's like you just see it and you react. And they both reacted to the same cues, which I think is really cool. If they might have the same kind of like aggressive brain, and that's something they can hope to build off.
Definitely, really nice. As I believe we are setting up for an interview. That's usually how this goes, but not ready just yet. I didn't peek.
Who we get?
Who we get? Well, what's going on, Gabby?
Well, I'm looking for him. Kenvi's chatting to a ref.
Ooh.
Who's going to do the interview?
I don't know. Should I run down there?
Oh, I think they grabbed one and they threw him on the analyst desk if I had to guess. Yeah, that's why I don't see anybody on stage. That's usually how it works. Sorry, I turned my back to the camera for
it's fine.
a minute, but I had a great view. So
we
even
can see
if you
everything.
didn't
Don't worry
see the
about
stage
it.
well, I saw everything.
It's just our
good.
job differently, right? We tell you what's going on in the game. We turn around and tell you what's happening on the stage. It's all commentary. It's all good.
Yeah, that's going to do it for the first 2 days.
It is. That goal graph, by the way, is going to be hilarious to look at because it's like a flat line for 15 to 20 minutes and then just a little roller coaster ride for the end there. And also, didn't end up being that long of a game. I thought we were going...
Only 34 minutes.
Yeah, I thought we were easily going 40.
Well, it's because I think if FlyQuest wins, that's like a 40-minute game.
Right.
Because they were going to need to pick up multiple Hextech Drakes, probably at least like one Baron with a big team fight. And when they didn't pull that off, it just... Obviously, when you can pressure the soul, Immortals is able to win the fight and take it home.
So 2 days of gameplay we have had. We have one more day tomorrow. What have we learned outside of Team Liquid are good?
Yeah, well...
Because we have definitely learned that.
You definitely can't... I mean, even... We knew that.
Yes.
Right? They're probably looking better than they actually are because it's just 2 days, and it's like so impossible to be that consistent. We already saw, like, Immortals is not the worst. I said this a lot in spring. I'm saying it again here. They looked like the worst yesterday, but they definitely, they just beat FlyQuest, who destroyed Golden Guardians the other day. So if you can do this every split where it's like, well, if this person beat that person, then it all goes into a circle.
Golden Guardians won today too.
Yeah, so...
Clearly against a team that they were certainly not favored against.
I mean, it's such a strange start to the split because, you know, Berserker lost his passport. Fudge is not playing with the team. He's just in the apartments for C9. Right? Some teams did long boot camps in Korea. It's paying off. Like off the top of my head, both COG and TL did big boot camps in Korea, and they're boom, right off the bat playing well. Not only I think COG is just so confident that no one knows how to deal with the Seraphine thing. So I think it's going to be banned tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember when they just picked Vi that 1 week?
Oh, yeah.
Like a year and a half ago?
The Brox of Vi just kept on coming?
Yeah, so just losing every game. They're like, you know what? What if we just played Galio Vi every single game? And now they're just like, what if we just play Seraphine every game?
They're going to play Seraphine every game.
Yeah.
Unless it gets banned. Well, so hot tip, ban it.
They need to do it in matchups they can't punish. So it's like they will do it if they see a Tom Kench or a Sen on the other team, but if it's like a Leona Kai'Sa, they're not going to do it.
All right, well, I have great news for you all. We are going to be moving on. But before we go to Pro that's going to be with Revenge, we're going to be heading to the Bud Light Breakdown.
Thank you very much, Pastrytime, and welcome to the Bud Light Breakdown. As he said, we are setting up for a pro-to-pro between High and Revenge. We'll get to that as soon as possible. Until then, we get to talk about this Immortals victory on the board.
Finally.
They did! Taking the victory over FlyQuest. Did not come easy, though. I think that is kind of the key element of this game. Dragon stacking on the side of Immortals. Gold lead on the side of FlyQuest. This one went to the late game.
Yeah, and for me, the most important thing was something that actually we just came into the replay of, which is Philip using his ulti as the Aatrox while Gwen didn't. So you go into the fight, up a resource is a significant resource. Just made it difficult for this side of FlyQuest to play it out.
Rakan also crucially does not have his ultimate because Aphromoo had earlier popped it in the river for nothing.
It would have been a tough fight no matter what, and you heard Jatt talking about in the cast about oh, it's an Ezreal comp. Well, this comp that Immortals has a lot of go buttons. All 5 people can go in on a target if some CC is landed, so it's very easy for them to peel off an objective when the Ezreal comp's trying to walk forward. And you can see, huge throw there. The Baron fight.
Look at that goal graph.
The Baron fight was actually where that game turned around.
Yeah, that's a wild goal graph. But Mark, I actually want to give you an opportunity to follow up on that very point you were making, because earlier during the game you referenced, I think it was Vulcan's interview, right? In talking about in Ezreal usage, but how very much the setups are different, right?
Yeah.
Having had Drake control in that game, okay, we could force teams to walk into us and try and get on top of that Ezreal. This time around, you don't have that Drake threat to begin with, and then to your point, it's all of that engaged on the side of Immortals that ultimately will allow them to get on top of you.
Yeah, so it was a good job by the side of Immortals finding those opportunities. That Alt-E combo by IgNar near the Baron wall was actually so sick, and toucouille, nice flash to respect it, but you're starting a fight without your Azir ult, flash, or Banshees, so that was huge.
Yeah, basically this composition, like you need to stay back and kind of poke, because again, in a lot of these, like when we're looking at comps right now in the meta that people are choosing that have low engage compared to what we're used to seeing. And this has been happening across all regions, right? Even in LPL where like you have to pry Leona and Nautilus out of their cold dead hands. You need to actually use your poke correctly around an objective like that. So it was a good catch out by IgNar. I thought he had a really good game. He was constantly looking for engages with the team. So even though I looked at FlyQuest Comp and I was like, okay, this is nice and easy to execute for them, credit to Immortals for being able to recognize when their windows were in those team fights.
And that's always the battle, especially when I look, we were talking about both compositions, the ease of access, or at least the ease of execution for Immortals versus FlyQuest, which you were like, okay, they have first touch on wave with the range that they have as Ezreal and Azir. And then like first setup is going to be easy, but like the resources are really important. Azir ulti, I guess blink for Ezreal just in case, and Rakan. But they didn't have a few of those, including the Rakan ulti, as you mentioned, and the Aatrox ulti, which made that last fight difficult.
All right, well, I don't want to make us, or honestly the fans at home, wait any longer.
True.
They're ready over there at the Telstra. Let's join High in revenge for Pro to Pro.
Hello everyone, I have Revenge here with me. Congratulations on the win. I wasn't expecting that during the game because you weren't winning for a while, but then you turned it around. So I have you up here because I have a few questions for you. Number one, I'm gonna play this first clip. It's gonna lead into a quick little Rift Herald fight, but can you tell me about why you picked Gwen into Aatrox since you had to counter pick this game?
Yeah, well, I don't want to give too much away, obviously, since we're playing tomorrow. And I think I would say that I can at least just describe that Aatrox as a champ right now is pretty strong in lane after the durability changes. I think a lot of the D-Shield champions that can go second wind can kind of just stay in lane forever in a way early game unless they're playing really bad. And the issue with Aatrox is that he actually gets outskilled in side lane by a lot of champions. There was a lot of things I could pick this game that would outscale him in side lane, but I just think that Gwen is one of the strongest scaling champions in the game right now, and I think it kind of showed this game. It's kind of like insurance in a way. I don't think he should be behind this much at this point if he's playing
with all the attention he's gotten too, right?
Yeah, with all the attention. I think I just managed my waves really well this game and denied a lot of CS. But ideally, the way this matchup should go is that he's actually a lot more even with me up until we're both one item, and then he should start to lose inside.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play another team fight here. Your Baron flank team fight. Can you walk me through the process of like how do you play Gwen in the team fight? And then also, what are the comms like going on in here?
Well, I think PowerOfEvil had really good comms at this point of the game because he kind of, as an Azir player, he actually recognized that Azir is for sure the strongest champion at this point for their team, and the only way we lose is, you know, going on Azir or getting one shot by Azir. So I actually just did everything in my power to kill Azir here. I actually think I could have probably timed the stopwatch a bit differently. I don't think they actually had any.
You think you did it for no reason here?
It was kind of, I mean, it's like two things. Trundle actually ulted me, so I actually wanted to buy time because if they actually all ulted me at the same time there, I think I would drop to like 20% life and I'd have to just run. So looking back now, I think the ulti was okay, but I think in the moment I felt like, oh, maybe I could have done a bit more damage. But the big thing was once we got Azir out of the fight, sadly he didn't die, but once he was out of the fight, I feel like they couldn't really do much. I think Ezreal for them this game was not really the greatest without an enchanter or like, you know, someone giving like a Karma, giving him more of that move speed, that kiting against me. But yeah, I think we just did a really good job in the game. Props to PoE. I think he really just, like hammered in, we have to get this Azir, like stop giving this guy free damage because I think we lost a few fights because of that. And we took him out and the fight was pretty free.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you for that. I want to say, I did want to bring this up because I wanted to, personally, I want to give you player of the game for this play right here. Your TP into this fight wins the game. Yes, you don't win the game here, but you win the ensuing fight. So I really like this play. Thank you for taking your time here.
Thank you.
Talk to me about the pick and how to play it. So that's it for us. Back to y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. I don't know if that came through on my mic, but thank you very much, both High and Revenge. Very cool insight, particularly around, who it is who's identified, and PowerOfEvil called out this time around for saying, hey, it's the Azir. That's the person that we have to concern ourselves with in those late game fights. And as High mentioned, while it wasn't necessarily the Baron that was the final fight to the game, it was the winning fight in the game.
Absolutely. And so, like, being able to identify the biggest threats for sure is always the most important. There are a lot of times, actually throughout this day, where we're talking about, you're kind of attacking the wrong, champ.
Hitting
So,
the
like,
Brahma line.
there we go, a few times. So, like, being able to understand the target there. Also a good point from Revenge about earlier on in the game in terms of just, like, managing the waves. There was one fight that happened topside where Kenvi and Josedeodo were topside a little bit on a scrap. No one died, but what ended up happening was Kenvi left a Revenge as well with this frozen wave. And so when we ended up seeing Philip come right back topside, it suddenly he was 10 CS behind.
Yeah.
So, like, things like that could happen. This is just one of those things where you have to stress, like, if you are in a bad wave state, you need help. And I think that was a good example of it.
And considering everything he talked about on the matchup, you get behind like that, Aatrox versus Gwen, it felt like it was all over from there. Let's pull up the standings, see where all the teams sit at the end of day 2 here in the Summer Split. We got 3 2-0 teams. It's CLG. How about that one?
There we go.
Unsurprised.
Alongside Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid Honda. Next up, we got a big slew of teams in 4th place. 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, Immortals, Progressive now on the board. Cloud9, I think for many, will be the surprise at 0-2. Granted, again, we'll continue to remind people it's not the full starting roster out there on the stage just yet, alongside Dignitas.
Time to overreact.
Yep.
Still hunting for the 0-2. I think it's going to sting for TSM fans to see that 0-2, considering how poor the spring split was. But I, at least for one, feel differently about this 0-2. Again, today for me, Spica actually popped the heck off, even though they didn't get the win.
I saw some people saying you got the Lyra award, if people remember, like the jungler on your cursed team. I mean,
Envy?
Yeah. But
Lyra Envy.
6 kills on Viego in this meta is like, wow, you were having a great game, just unfortunately couldn't clinch it.
Couldn't get it over the line.
Yeah, this day was the same. J4 yesterday. I feel like Spica's been playing well, absolutely. They've been having pretty rough games, but it's one of those things where you just hashtag keep the faith.
You can't take CLG's hashtag.
Maybe you can.
Right, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's the one team that can't take that.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I hope desperately that we do not see Mark-level knee-jerk reactions to the couple of losses by the TSM staff. Like, I really hope that this is the split where they take a note out of
Shenyi
multiple
coming
other
in
teams.
Sunday.
No, let it ride. Please, let it ride.
That's my
all
biggest.
I want to see
That's
happen.
my biggest, question mark. When I had TSM low in my power ranking, I was like, it's mostly because last split, hey, you came in with an understanding that this team needed time, and then week 2, you just shook everything out. So give them time.
On the other side, I think it's really interesting to call out CLG's composition again. Obviously, we've talked about the Seraphine. The plus 14k healing to teammates is just absolutely disgusting
Enchanter abusers.
from that composition. But something I believe I've seen in NA Academy too with the Seraphine, because they were one of the first regions I saw on this current patch as opposed to 12.10. So I am wondering, with today's game, especially with all of the healing that was being done, if other teams are going to try to pick up something like this.
I think it was one of you 3 that posed it, and I'm just going to jack the question. Does CLG have the best read on the meta?
Oh, I think I had said that.
Was that you who just said it offhand? I don't know. Somebody dropped it, and now that Emily's talking about, like, what other people try and... Because the inverse of that, for example, is FlyQuest, right? Who, as Revenge mentioned, no enchanter in the lineup. So you've got everything from 0 enchanters to 3 enchanters out there on the Rift. Which direction is better? CLG 2-0? Looking like it's an argument.
Seraphine abuse, carries in the top lane.
Senna.
I don't know. Looks pretty good to me.
Senna gross, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I would definitely say CLG would be it, just because they, like, from the Yone top lane just yesterday, and then, of course, mostly just having enchanters bot lane. It's when you look at bot lane win rates on the patch, a lot of the times you'll notice, the AD carry is not the one with the highest win rates. The picks like Seraphine, Veigar, stuff like that is, or Swain, I suppose. In this case, if you're going to keep getting Senna, maybe you get Senna Swain, maybe in the future, who knows? Then finding Senna Seraphine is a damn good combo that is just an amazing ball comp.
Hot start for CLG.
Boom.
A couple of other teams as well. Let's take a look at our pogs, though, to see which of our players started hot here
There it
today.
is.
Yesterday it was what?
Wow,
it was
it's
4 mid laners.
There was a lot of mids
Support
yesterday.
A whole
bias
bunch
today.
of mids yesterday. There's some clear support bias here today.
Depending on
I'm
how you wanna
considering Luger a support
categorize Luger,
because
yeah.
he's only played
True.
Senna and Seraphine
True.
so far. And then Revenge as a top laner sneaking in there right at the end of the day.
Gotta say, I'm happy to see the support representation and the Vulcan core JJ back and forth. I will be hyping up that narrative quite a bit over the course of this split, so I want to see who gets the best one.
That's pretty hilarious, because how long do we keep saying, well, supports need love, they need the recognition. You finally get it there, and it's consistently the teams that were winning today that had the better supports.
There it is. There it is. Scheduled for tomorrow, because we got 3 days of LCS action on this opening week. We kick things off with 100 Thieves versus Dignitas. FlyQuest step on stage second against Evil Geniuses. Another big matchup, smack dab in the middle of the day.
100 Thieves Demons.
Your boy Mark Z gonna be on the cast.
Yeah!
Okay, I never want to hear
get him
that
off
again.
the cast. That's something I want to hear during that game. CLG Golden Guardians in slot number 4 before we close out with TSM versus Immortals Progressive.
It's actually just so funny that every time Dignitas goes up against 100 Thieves, it's a Dignitas win. Like, even during the end of the split, when 100 Thieves were about to have like the longest win streak of the split and usurp C9s,
Yep.
slip to the Dignitas banana peel. So it's like, it could happen again.
Is it going to?
It- I'm gonna hold my
You're gonna make me
prediction.
wait. You're gonna make me
I'm
wait
gonna make
until
you wait.
tomorrow to find out.
There we go.
into what you think.
Tension,
All right. Fair enough.
expectation.
Any other closing thoughts? 2 days in.
I'm regretting my CLG last place in my power rankings. I can own that one
okay.
Own that one quickly.
The good
Same.
news is somehow you're on their good side
yeah.
through all of it.
I don't know how.
I mean, amazing. So
I appreciate the grace that they've shown me.
That
for,
in and of itself is impressive.
Yeah,
All right, fair enough. We're gonna get home, get some rest, come back tomorrow for another full day of LCS play. So from those of us here
Sounds
at
good.
the LCS,
for myself, the cast, the entire live broadcast
Too
crew.
many Seraphine impressions today. There you
all right,
go.
that's it from us. I don't know where I was in this sign-off, so we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, be good to each other. Good night.
Wow, that was way off.